Hi, I'm Travis Newhouse, the Chief Architect at AppFormix. Let me walk you through, give you a brief overview right now, and then we'll be getting into more detail as we go throughout the session. When you log in, this is the view you see as an operator. This is the initial dashboard that shows you kind of a quick summary of your entire infrastructure. And we want to highlight what needs attention. So part of the analytics that we do is rating a health score for each resource that's in your data center, whether it's an instance or a project or a host or a collection of hosts, which OpenStack calls host aggregates. And the idea is that as the operator logs in, they can quickly go and see, okay, I see a host that's marked bad, maybe I want to go, that's where I want to focus my attention, because I don't want to just go browsing around and staring at the screen all day. So you can quickly click on that and see what's going on in this host. This is a physical compute node that has a number of VMs running on it. You can see at the top some basic capacity metrics for, in this case, the CPU is oversubscribed by this number of VMs. You can see how much memory is being allocated on this physical node, as well as the disk space. We're also showing in real time the metrics for some of the core metrics on the box: CPU, memory, the network in and out, and the disk I/O. And here you can see in red that the CPU usage is really high. That's why this host is marked as having poor health. And you can further take a look and see maybe what's happening. Where is that CPU? Where are those resources being consumed? This is our charts page. And we have a number of metrics here that I will zoom in so you can actually see them. These are all the metrics that we're collecting on that host using that agent. Sorry. For instance, you can take a look at CPU usage. We also have CPU VM usage. This is relative to a particular virtual machine. So instead of just seeing how much a virtual machine is consuming on the host, you can see how much the VM is using, the application is using that of its allocation. So if a virtual machine is given 2 vCPUs, then the application might be pegging it, and the application owner would want to know, I might need to resize that VM to be larger for my application load.
Is there a quick link though? So when you had the host CPU usage, can I just click on it and then just drill straight down into what's causing that high usage, rather than choosing the individual drop-down menu?
Not right now. Okay. That's a great feedback though for our navigation. I mean, what we do have is similar thing is like a search and we have some other metrics where you can actually say, I want to know the top 10 users, right? Yeah. So we have what we call our reports page. And you can actually take this, and this is a different way to look at the data and search the data, but you could, for instance, say, I want to know the top 30 instances that are using CPU over the last 5 hours. And from that, you might be able to find out one of two things. Who are the highest users? Some of our customers actually want to know who are the lowest users, because they get a lot of people that will spin up a VM, they're all excited, and then they just leave it sitting there. Mm-hmm. And the resources are kind of just being squandered because there's memory and CPU set aside for that user, but it's really not being actively used, and it's wasting hardware resources that they have. So instead of growing, they would rather go find these people that are squatting and say, okay, why don't you release these VMs that are being unused?
Well, going on with Craig, what I'm missing in a lot of products is you can often drill down. For example, I have a VM performing bad, then I can drill down to the storage, but then the next step is going back up again to see what other VMs are causing this.
Right. So that is something that we provide. And so because we have all the relationships between the resources in your infrastructure, we can slice it in different ways. So I can take a view that is a project-based view. And this project has, 6 VMs running in it across different physical resources, right? And I can find out quickly where they are running. So I can find out, well, this one's on this host. If I go to a different project, I can see things that are on other hosts. So this virtual machine's on a different host on node 35, and whenever you're viewing that data, you can see, so you can kind of drill down from the project perspective because you own the VMs and you know what projects you have, or you can drill down through the hardware perspective, or go back and forth. So if I know it's on host 35, I can jump directly to host 35 and go see what else is competing with that node for physical resources.
Can you help clarify the project? Is project like an application, and would, say, a business unit have multiple applications? What's the construct above project, I guess?
Right. Project is a collection of virtual machines that a user has created. So they could create them however they would like. Right now, we actually map it to the OpenStack. Like with our OpenStack integration, we map it to the OpenStack notion of project. So each tenant can log in and can have a number of projects. And when they create a VM belongs to a single project inside of the OpenStack cloud management system.
Okay.
And I skimmed over that in the beginning. I probably should have mentioned this data that we have here. We actually, and I'll show this later when we do a walkthrough of how we kind of install the software. This data is all collected from OpenStack. So a user or an operator or an application owner is not entering information into AppFormix. They're not having to come and configure, I have these VMs and I want them to be monitored. We are going out and discovering that from OpenStack and mapping what OpenStack has and giving you a view of the data of all the resources and their resource consumption on your infrastructure.
And your decision engine on whether a number is good or bad, can you also write your own rules?
Definitely. Yeah. And we find that at each customer, what is important to them or what is critical in their environment is different. Mm-hmm. And so we've made that configurable. You can write that policy of what is considered good health or bad health using the metrics that we collect.
So a very basic question, how do I pay for this? How is it licensed?
Oh, our software?
Free.
Free.
No, we are venture funded.
You only. What? For anyone in this room, it's free.
Absolutely not.
No. I might lose my job.
I might lose mine.
The boss.
No, so with all of our existing customers, they tend to be larger customers. So we've adopted a site license-based model.
Okay.
And it's been good for us because they've come up with very creative like scenarios, because one customer even took our agents and installed it on network switches, right? So it's been good for us so far. Just having this kind of like one site-wide license for them and then enabling them to take our software and play with it and innovate with it.
Okay.
Why did they install it on the network switch?
What's the advantage of installing on? So I'm assuming you're talking about like a white box type switch, a Cumulus or something that runs Linux.
Yeah.
What's the key metrics they're getting from those switches?
I don't know. It's up to them, right? But in the end, it's a system, right?
Right.
Like, for example, it's a system, it's Linux, it has interfaces. You can get the error counts of those interfaces. You can get the error counts, and then using our system, you can do alarming based on those. So in real time, you know if on some switch, if there are some number of interfaces that are dropping packets, that are crossing some threshold, and things like,
So it just becomes a very extensible platform for anything Linux-based.
Yes, or Windows.
And then going on the switches, but maybe other application, could I add my own counters to the agent? So for example, because you're supporting Docker, suppose I write an application that I put into Docker.
Yeah.
Could I have the application give out counters that you connect with the agent to?
So the way we enable you to do that is you can read your counters and write them to the message bus. As far as the agent goes, we are trying our best to have it be like very code optimized, have a very low CPU overhead and things like that. So we're trying to enable that experience. We could open it up, but then, if something breaks, then what do we do?
This can be a backdoor to competing with like MQ series or MQ for message button. It becomes a message button. If I can write, I can use.
So we use MQ.
Right.
We don't invent our own message bus.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the big message bus company? TIBCO. It can be people can kind of cheat and use this as opposed to a TIBCO?
For infrastructure.
Right, for infrastructure.
I mean, one of like, so when I used to do analyst pitches early on, like when they were shooting me down, one of the things they would tell me is that, hey, perhaps you should pitch yourself as the New Relic for infrastructure. Right? You're getting all these real-time metrics. You're giving me this real-time dashboard about how this infrastructure is performing, what's working, what's not working, where are the hotspots, things like that. So that's roughly kind of the space we play in. Right? So do you want to add a widget?
Yeah, here.
Yeah, add a widget.
So what I'm going to show is this is again that reporting. So we can add a new report. Let's say we want to know the least used systems. Maybe we want to know the bottom 5 instances based on average CPU utilization. We can group them by project so we know who the project owners are. And then we can give it a value. Let's just say for now 5 minutes.
It won't pop up anything for 5 minutes, but that's, yeah, no, okay, yeah, sure.
You just wanted to go shorter.
No, that's okay, yeah.
So it would take 5 minutes to do the analysis, but that's the idea that you can quickly generate these reports. And these are real-time style reports that these widgets will be updated as new data is coming into the system, right? So we're constantly, as the agents that are collecting and analyzing the resources are pushing events up, then we're taking that information and we're populating these widgets in real time. For capacity planning, some of our customers are also interested in gathering reports on historical data.
Keep going.
So you can run a query and it's configurable how much data you want to store. We use a NoSQL database for storage. That's managed by us, but it's configurable by the user of how much storage they want to keep. And you can then generate a report over that data and do things like, I want to know over the last month, who are the top users. It tells you the instances. It will tell you this project, used this many hours of CPU time, how much memory it was using on average. Then for every instance, we're sorting it by its utilization. You can take this and export it to CSV. You can import it into other tools that you have, and really get a sense of who's using your infrastructure, how they're using your infrastructure, how much resources you're consuming, over certain periods of time. When do you need to buy more hardware? When do you need to plan? Because our customers are telling us, it takes me a month from the time I put the PO and the time I can rack and cable this box. And if I want to do it for cheap, if I want to get it tomorrow, I'm paying premium. And so if I want to keep my budget down, I want to know the rate at which I'm growing, the rate at which I need to add infrastructure.
So I've got 2 questions there for you. The first one is, do I have to run a report, or does it just tell me where my capacity is, whatever it may be, network, storage, or my compute layer, that I need to go and do something about it? Which one is it? Is it tells me, or do I have to go and do something in the first place? Which one?
So right now, you run the report in a cron job.
Okay.
And you do that step manually. But eventually, when we are done, right, then it should be at that point where we're automatically telling you.
And my next question is, you talked about a customer's procurement cycle, and I completely agree with you that it may take them 60 days internally to even get to a point where they even request a PO. Can you put in that 60 days plus 30 days to procure plus 30 days to rack and stack, for example? So that's 120 days into your engine to enable you to say, actually, I need to know 4 months in advance before that resource is going to.
So as we build that, we're building. Right now, we've got this framework where we're collecting this data,
cool,
and this message bus for analyzing and looking at that data. And we're building these tools. The way we've architected the system is that you can continue to build these tools, either us internally, professional services for our customers, or customers can write their own as well. They can listen to the bus. Our APIs are public to them. They can take that data and do what they want. So if they want to do custom tooling, and we see it as building this platform for analytics of your infrastructure so that we can build those tools. And they are on our roadmap to build these kinds of predictive analytics that will actually tell them in advance and have it be configurable. I want to know, what's it going to look like for me in 6 months? What's my trend line? Where am I going to be, 6 months out, a year out? What does it look like? I want to know that.
What's the boundaries and what's the context of the metadata for the project. So they're based on, if I have 4, which bless my heart if I do, 4 OpenStack installations, and obviously the projects are going to be wildly different. Basically what's the schema of searching that? Is it all just on the same bus? Can I separate the buses out, the separate message buses for each OpenStack instance?
So right now, we treat each OpenStack cluster separately. So you'll have one installation of our software per OpenStack cluster, monitoring that collection of resources.
Okay.
That's how we break it out right now.
So I'm assuming on the roadmap is a way to aggregate that up.
Yeah. I mean, and OpenStack is also trying to federate clouds, and we're looking at how they're doing that to make sure we align, with their technology as well. But yeah, it'll be there eventually to the point where you can say, okay, I've got regions of OpenStack clusters maybe, and I want to know across my regions what's going on. Then definitely we'll be looking at how to do that aggregation.